In my experience, there are two key issues that often emerge around social work and socially engaged art. The first one is a question of why it is important to make a distinction between social work and social practice in the first place. The second one is a question on why should an activity that concerns itself with changing the world bother calling itself art. As to the first question, socially engaged art is a form of social work, but not the other way around. The task of trying to argue that the Red Cross, for example, is an artwork, for instance, is rather absurd and unproductive because it doesn't aid to the work that the Red Cross intends to do. In contrast, identifying a socially engaged art project as art is important because social practice is not exclusively about effecting change in the social sphere, but also about changing cultural ways of thinking. This is done discursively, and it is done by using the discursive realm of art. In other words, it is not just important that a given person does, but also what it means. Socially engaged art is not a non-profit institution. It is a discipline, a philosophical approach to the issues around society that responds in concrete terms, in concrete gestures, and singular proposals. It is not a government program, but social practice can offer models of thinking and actions for governments. This is why it is important for social practice to retain a separate identity from social work. As to the second question, precisely because social practice is dependent on the conversation that is had about it, it still has to operate to an extent in the symbolic realm. As I have said in my book, Education for Socially Engaged Art, the traditional argument against equating socially engaged art with a social work is that to do so would subject art to direct instrumentalization, relinquishing a crucial aspect of art making that demands self-reflexivity and criticality. This argument, however, is weak. It precludes the possibility that art can specifically be instrumental and intentionally abandon any hopes of self-reflexivity, ideas that some artists are interested in. The stronger argument is that socially engaged art has a double function that social work lacks. When we make a socially engaged artwork, we're not just offering a service to a community, assuming that it is a service-oriented piece. We're also proposing our action as a symbolic statement in the context of our cultural history and/or our history, and entering into a larger artistic debate. While socially engaged artworks do not have to be explicit in their purpose, there's always a clear desire by their authors to engage a second interlocutor or client, to use social work terminology, other than the community of participants, that is, the art world, which evaluates the project not just for what it has accomplished, but also as a symbolic action. Some artists are adamant that the work blurs the boundaries between social work and artwork, while others are not concerned whether their work is even defined as art or non-art, thus take a very non-committal position. But in cases like the latter, the simple referencing of the possible dichotomy between art and non-art is already an acceptance that the activity is operating to a degree within the realm of art. When an artist or social worker enters in communication with an individual or a community, he or she will be confronted with the history, or lack thereof, of the individual community with art or social issues, which will color the kind of experiences he or she will have, as well as the initial nature of the exchange. Both social work and art practice are based on the postmodern perspective that it is a perception of facts, not facts in themselves, that matter. As such, the awareness by artists or social workers in the public perception of them and of the situation is what should inform their way to approach a situation. In art, the awareness of others' perceptions is valuable in that it gives the artist tools to upset expectations, either in positive or negative ways. Artists can benefit from learning how social workers inform themselves about social environment and record local problems, hopes, and beliefs. Particularly in situations where artists need to earn the trust of a community, it is important to understand the mutual respect, inclusivity, and collaborative involvement that are the main tenets of social work.